Hi, welcome to our channel. My name's Colin. This is my almost 4-year-old Heeler. He's laying back there, as you can see, just hanging out on his bed. We already went to the park today, so he's pretty toast. Anyways, I always get stopped by a lot of people, and I always end up talking to them and sharing a little bit of information about this breed. A lot of my friends and family say, hey, people are always curious, why don't you just make a YouTube video about it? So I decided, why not? Let's go for it. So here we are. I'm gonna go ahead and give you a little brief history of this breed and where they came from. Then I'm gonna go into some of their behavior traits and what you can expect if you're looking to own one of these dogs. And then I'm also gonna kind of wrap it up with why this dog works for me, how I work for this dog, and how I actually make it work in the situation we're in. So, their background. They're from Australia. They're actually known as Heelers, but they're red or blue. They have two main predominant color sets, although they can come in varieties. Some of them are blue predominantly with a red or tan chest, socks, and muzzle, depending on the way their ticking ends up. Their color is actually completely independent of the parent's color, so you can have two blues that only breed reds. You can have two reds that only breed blues. He came from a red father and a blue mother, and he is very, very blue with some interesting auburn mixed into his coat. So they come in a variety of different colors between the blue and red spectrum. And they were bred, like I said, down in Australia. This guy named Thomas Hall was a cattle driver in the 1800s. People believe the dog came about 1820, 1830, depending on who you're talking to and what kind of research you're doing. But essentially, this guy had collies that weren't working well in the Australian outback. They weren't meant for cattle. They were meant for sheeps. They were meant for sheep. So they actually were too yippy. They weren't quiet enough. They spooked the cattle, and they couldn't really work in the Australian outback to the extent that he needed them to. So he decided to make his own dogs. What he ended up doing is breeding the dogs that he'd brought from England down to Australia with dingo that he had obtained from the Australian outback. So they're pretty interesting dogs. Now there's some speculation as to what else or if anything else went into the breed. Some people think that there's Dalmatian, Kelpie, a terrier, I believe. Some people think there's actually a gentleman, named Guy Hull, Hull, who just wrote a book. He's an Australian dog historian. He believes actually that Thomas Hall was using English curs or English drovers, and he crossbred and then rebred those with the dingo to get the dog that we see now. So that's an interesting claim, and it actually makes a little bit more sense if you know anything about the dog. They do have a naturally bobbed tail variation. Their coat and herding style matches up a lot more with the cur or drover dogs as opposed to a collie. They have very short fur. They're not long-furred animals. They're not as yippy as collies, and they also have a very mouthy herding style. The reason they have their name Heeler is actually they herd by biting the cows on the back of their hooves. They'll also do it to people, so they're known to nip people on the heels, hence the name Heeler. Now, they were officially introduced into the AKC in 1980, and then in 83 they were introduced into the herding group of the AKC. So that's a little bit about their history, where they came from. Now that leads me into their traits and behaviors. These dogs are very, very intelligent and very high energy. They need a lot of stimulation, mental and physical. They need a lot of companionship. They're kind of Velcro dogs. They'll follow you all over the place. When I was raising him, I've had him since he was 8 weeks, but when he was a puppy, I could leave the door open and he wouldn't go anywhere, which is saying something because we all know how curious puppies can be. A little interesting fact about them too is they're born all white. They get their spots as they grow older. The only thing that they're born with in terms of color is if they have a mask, they're gonna have their mask as a puppy. If they have any big dark spots, whether it be red or blue, basically tan or black, those will be there as well. So mine has a shoulder patch, a patch on his tail, and he's got an offset mask. One side is perfect and the other side is kind of like just shifted a little bit, but those were there when he was really, really young. Those are always going to show through. But other than that, they're born completely white, and then they age in and get color as they go. Now, again, like I mentioned before, their herding style is nipping, so they're very mouthy dogs. They love to chew, they love to bite, they love to try to control tempo through nipping. If you're gonna get one as a puppy, that's one of the biggest training challenges you're gonna face, is letting them know what they can and can't chew on, letting them know when they can nip you, if they can nip you, how hard they can nip you. We did a really good job of breaking him. The only time he ever tries to herd me is if I'm putting on my motorcycle boots, because he knows he's not coming with me. And luckily my motorcycle boots are pretty thick, so I don't feel it. We've gotten a lot of that behavior cold. It was a long process. It took a lot of training and a lot of attention, And that's basically what this dog is all about. If you are looking to get one of these dogs, a couple recommendations. I would definitely recommend having a yard and having a lot of time for these dogs. They're not dogs you can just leave at home for 10 hours a day, come home, take them on 2 walks, and you're good to go. They need a lot of love, a lot of affection, and they need a lot of your time. So let's say you work a 9 to 5, right? That's a lot of us. I personally am not in that situation right now, but that's probably gonna change soon. So let's say I'm working a 9 to 5. I need to get up at 6 and take him for at least an hour and a half walk or run or something, just to get him exercised. And again, on the back half of the day after I get home, he's got to have at least 2 to 3 hours outside just doing whatever. It's just how they are. They also need just as much mental stimulation as they need physical stimulation. So if you're not one to pay attention to your dogs, if you kind of like to have a dog as a side piece, companionship when you want it, but want to be left alone when you don't want to be interacting with a dog, that's not something I would recommend this isn't a breed I would recommend for you. I mean, it's not something that's going to work for these dogs. I personally love interacting with dogs. I love playing with them. We're always playing fetch inside, playing fetch outside. He does a lot of different things for us. He has jobs around the house, which is another thing that you need to do with these dogs. If you're gonna have an Australian cattle dog, it has to have a designated job in your house. Ours picks up laundry from our bathroom. So he'll go into the bathroom after we take a shower. I purposely leave some laundry on the floor for him, because I figure when I have kids, this will be a good thing. He goes and he'll pick it up and he'll bring it out to us and he'll exchange it for a treat. So I give him a treat, I take the clothes, I put them in the hamper, we're good to go. Keeps our bathroom clean too. So that's nice. He also will greet you at the door and pull your coat if you have a coat or a sweater. He likes to do that. Again, that's just part of the job that we've taught him to do. Now, if you're not willing to give a dog like this a job, this actually is kind of overarching into most herding dogs or any kind of work dog, really. If you don't give them a job, if you don't set boundaries in terms of what they're allowed to do, what they should be doing, and what they can expect to do autonomously for you, they're gonna find something to do and you're probably not gonna like it. That's how you come home to chewed furniture, ripped up clothes, chewed shoes, whatever. You know, we've all heard horror stories of people coming home to their dogs just destroying something in their house, if not the whole house. These dogs are definitely capable of that. They have insanely strong jaws. They're very mouthy. If you're not gonna give them a lot of attention, a lot of job to do around the house, they're gonna find and make their own job, and that's just gonna lead to a lot of headaches for you. So that kind of leads me into my situation. I live in an apartment, but I live in a city that's very, very dog friendly. We have a lot of open space dog parks, which work really well for this dog. They like to work. They don't really like to socialize. Closed dog parks, like little tiny ones with a fence around it, and it's maybe the size of, someone's backyard. They don't really work well in that situation. They're highly reactive. They have a very strong prey drive. They don't like to interact. They like to work. In my general experience, now there's individuals out there that are totally fine playing with dogs, and I've had him since 8 weeks. As soon as he was fully inoculated, we took him to those kind of dog parks to try to see if he would want to play, and he didn't really ever want to play. He wanted to dominate the yard. He wanted to go in, break up other dogs playing, control the tempo like they would with cattle, It wasn't just the right situation for him. And again, that's a pretty general trait for most of these dogs in this breed. They don't like to interact with other dogs. They don't want to play with other dogs. Generally, they want to work for you. So if you can't handle that, if you're thinking, oh, I'm going to take my dog to the dog park and just let him go, and I don't have to worry about him, they're going to get into trouble. They're going to instigate, they're going to try to shut down playtime with other dogs, and they're going to end up nipping another dog or something like that, and then you're going to have a situation on your hands. That's why open space dog parks work really, really well for us. We have 2 dog beaches within 10 minutes of us that are way open and have a ton of space, and then there's actually another dog park that is on a little inlet that the entire inlet is off leash, and then there's a gigantic, probably 3-kilometer radius dog park within that inlet as well. That's got beaches and there's all sorts of open space with a bunch of bushes growing. So if another dog ever comes up to my dog and tries to interact, he's fine. He'll sniff, check him out, say hi, and then he walks on, and that's it. But we will run into problems if we try to take him to a closed space dog park where there is no out. We can't get away from the dog that's trying to interact with us. That's when I have to step in and shoo the other dog away or break the contact, because my dog will let another dog know very, very quickly. Pharaoh has no problem saying, I'm done, get off me, don't play with me. And that can get us into trouble, so I just like to avoid that at all costs. He does socialize, he does go and play with certain dogs here and there. Like I said, he's almost 4, he's turning 4 in April. And I want to say in the 4 years, there's been 3 dogs that he wants to play with. And the very funny thing about that too is he only plays with them in specific situations, or locations. He had made a friend at our old apartment complex, and he would only play with her at that apartment complex. We'd see her out at other dog parks, completely ignored her. He made a friend at one of the dog parks that we go to, one of the open space ones we go to, and he only plays with her at that specific dog park. We've seen her at other ones, will not play with her. He also likes to work first, so if he hasn't had his work done, if he hasn't done his fetch, if he hasn't, gone swimming to get his bumper, or fetched his frisbee a certain amount, or, chased his ring a certain amount, whatever toy we're working with that day, if he hasn't done that yet, he does not want to play. He wants to be left alone, and he wants to work first. So they're really, really, really strong work dogs. They have a high sense of work drive. They just really like to interact with you as opposed to other dogs. So like I said, if you're gonna have one of these dogs, you want to give it space. It usually needs space. Our situation's a little unique because we have so many options to us, and I have time right now. When I got him, I was working split shifts, so I had a lot of morning shifts that I could get him out before, come home in the middle of the day, play with him in the middle of the day, and then again in the evening, same kind of thing. So he was getting a lot of attention. He was getting a lot of training. I'm also the kind of person where I put a lot of effort into things I really enjoy. I'm almost obsessive in that way. I always knew I wanted to get a dog. I found this breed and I haven't looked back. I really don't imagine myself working with any other dog, just because of the level of intuition and the level of attachment these dogs have to their owners. It's amazing. They're great animals. But again, if you're not willing to put in the work, if you're not willing to give them the time they need, they will be a nightmare for you. It's just how they are. So to kind of wrap it up, like I said, our situation's a little unique, so we don't have problems in a 1-bedroom apartment. He's totally fine. He gets out on probably 3 walks a day, just walks, and then he gets 1 to 2 big dog park kind of adventures on any given day. So he's out of the house quite a bit. On top of that, we do a lot of trick training with him. He knows basically all the tricks. I'll make a separate video on that where we're running through his trick list and kind of how I got him to that point. And yeah, so that's just kind of what we do, and a little bit about the Blue Heeler, and a little bit about my experience with them, and a little bit about what you can expect if you're looking to get one of these dogs. I hope that you enjoyed my video. Feel free to like, subscribe, all those different yada yada yada. But yeah, have fun and enjoy your day. Thanks.